Howdy, y'all. Welcome to the Rainbow Crossing Podcast, a podcast where Gen X and Gen Z discuss life's challenges and how we face them as queer people. We have these open conversations to foster a sense of community through different perspectives. My name is Julio Guzman, and with me is someone's B-Day who's coming up.
Ugh.
Dun, dun, dun.
We don't need to bring that up
But your name?
quite so early.
Your name?
Daniel.
For those who are listening.
Daniel.
Daniel.
Hey,
Hi.
how's it going?
You know, it's going as good as it can, but I'm doing well.
Yeah.
I've been training 1 week, maybe 2 weeks, for a marathon that's in 1 week, which sounds a little crazy.
It
but
sounds a lot crazy,
Yeah, I
actually.
know, yeah.
That's 26 miles.
26 miles.
And you've run, what's the longest you've run in the last couple of weeks? The longest distance?
The longest distance in the last couple of weeks is 8 miles. And that was 2 days ago.
That's a third
Yeah.
of what you'll be running.
Yes, but I'm just gonna go at it to complete it. But then as I'm running it, there's this competitive edge in me that might push myself. But I gotta make sure that I'm pacing myself because 26 miles is a long time. Yeah, no, I ran 8 miles on Tuesday, and the first 4 miles were at a 8:30 pace. And I was like, let me see if I can run all 8 miles at 8:30 pace. And I did, and it hurt afterwards.
I'm sure it did. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty tight and sore afterwards, and my foot was in a little bit of pain. But I've been stretching the past 2 days.
Good.
And I feel fine.
Good.
So just going to take it easy when I run on the 16th, which I've done in 1/2 marathon so far.
Yeah.
And I was like, might as well do the full.
Yeah.
So here I am, training.
I took on a challenge that you gave me and did a little running myself this week, just in our neighborhood, in just a couple of miles. But I've run a lot in my life, and I just haven't in recent years because obviously joint issues and everything.
sure.
Like at a certain point in time, you really don't need to be doing a lot of running, but a little bit certainly, challenges your endurance system and helps gear it up again. And we have a lot of hills in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I did like 2.
It's not just our neighborhood. Austin.
Yeah,
is
Austin's pretty
very
hilly in general, yeah. But I did like 2.5 miles or so, ran the whole way, ran a lot of uphill. I feel like I ran uphill both ways.
Yeah.
I feel like.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah. But it felt really good to get back out there and run again. Because like I said, like I used to do that all of the time. Like I was a runner for several years. Not like long distances. I wasn't doing marathons or anything.
Yeah.
But it's great to challenge your body and, push it to the edge of not past your limits, push it to just the edge
Just
of that.
like getting to know your limits,
Yeah.
That's what's nice.
Absolutely.
And then if you're able to, passing those limits. But you also got to listen to your body and
Yeah.
make sure they're not overdoing it. Because if you overdo it when you think that you can and you're not supposed to, your body can get hurt. So
Yeah.
listen to your body. Take it nice and steady. That's why I haven't worked out the past 2 days, because I've been focusing on stretching out my legs.
Right.
But I'm excited. 26 miles is a lot. And if I'm not going to do it now, when will I? Not when I get older.
Well,
might as well get those things out of the way now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how have you been? Sir?
Well, you mentioned at the top of the podcast that I've got a birthday coming up,
Yes.
which is about a month away. That's one of the reasons that I'm running. I'm like, I'm hitting a big milestone birthday.
Tell the listeners what that milestone is.
It feels like it's like 30, 35, I
30,
think.
35. And then
Yeah.
if you were to add,
and then you finish the math equation with an additional 15 or 20.
Okay, we'll
so
leave it there.
There's nothing to be embarrassed about it. And like I'm very happy with who I am, where I am at this point in my life. But I was like, I just want to be the best version of myself for 50. So with your help, like I'm challenging myself to change things up a little bit at the gym and doing a little bit of running and stuff. And I can already feel and honestly see a difference after just a handful of days. So that's kind of been part of my focus this week. And I've just had a lot of new work opportunities coming my way, which we talked about last time. So I'm just trying to juggle a lot of different projects right now and just all good stuff coming my way personally. Again, as we discussed last time, the world, the country, the state that we live in is in a different spot than what we are individually. But
yeah, and it's hard not to feel a little like guilty for feeling good when things are going good, when the whole world around you is crumbling. But hopefully embodying that good feeling, that good energy that is experienced in your
Right.
life will hopefully create more in everyone else's lives.
I hope so.
That's the goal.
That is the goal. Absolutely. Well, let's kick it off and do an icon or I can't.
Okay.
And these are positive, although every week I try to get you canceled in some way. So let's see if we can do it this week.
Well, even if you did, I probably wouldn't know.
Yeah. You're not
If I
tuned
were
in
to get
that
canceled,
way.
I would not know.
Yeah.
I would not know. You would know.
I would know.
The world would know, but I would probably not care or know.
Yeah, you wouldn't know or care. So icon or I can't. Beyonce winning
Icon.
the country album of the year at the Grammys. Yes,
Icon.
Beyonce is an icon.
Icon. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
I mean, she won Best Country Album of the Year and Album of the Year.
Yes.
Which
album of the year is understandable, but it's the country one that
for
I
sure.
really wanted your
I
opinion
mean,
on.
she's been trying to get Grammy of the Year for Album of the Year for years.
Yeah.
And has been a contender for years. And most of the time I'm like, why hasn't she won? And now she finally won 25 years later.
Yeah.
I mean, she's been in the running for at least 5 of those albums.
Well,
Icon.
yeah.
Back to that.
Yeah. Okay, so here's one that you actually might have more of a controversial opinion on. Lady Gaga's new song, Abracadabra. Icon or I can't.
Abracadabra, abracadabra. Oh, that was bad. Either way, that whole thing, it's icon. But for me, what I'm over is watch. I'm just going to click a couple stories and see what happens because we're going to hear it in about like a couple seconds. There it is. Abracadabra, abracadabra. There
Yeah.
we go. So she goes from Abba to Dabba to abracadabra all the way through. And I'm going to say icon because obviously all the monsters are eating. But I'm going to go with I can't with the gaze because it just won't leave my head. It won't leave my head. It's just there every other second. I'm hearing it. If it's not my phone, 5 seconds later, I'm hearing it on someone else's phone. And I'm like, when does it stop? When does it stop? And I'm probably going to get canceled. This is probably the moment I get canceled for like saying I can't with it over and over again.
I feel like it's a return to form for Lady Gaga with the song.
Oh, for sure.
To
Her
the
core.
Yeah, exactly.
Or at least what the fans knew as her core.
Exactly. So I'm enjoying the song, but it's definitely out there a lot.
Yeah. I've listened to it fully twice, but I have listened to it at least 500 times already.
Yeah.
By association or just by the swipe. Yeah. And I'm like, what is up with us? That same wavelength of it just going and going and going. And every gay seems to have wanting to post it and still posts it like they're not hearing it. It's like, we're all there.
It's kind of where the straights are at with Chapel Roan's Pink Pony Club now. Like, how are they just now discovering that song? I'm not sure I understand, but I hear that constantly on TikTok right now.
I mean, right now the Grammys definitely hyped up listening streams for things that have won. So obviously, Chapel Roan sure went up. I know Beyonce's album hit 5.1 million streams yesterday.
Wow.
Just yesterday. Wow. That's crazy.
That is.
So, like, the Grammys will do magic. Oh, shout out to Doechii. I know you didn't bring her, but I have been listening to the album on repeat. Yeah. Everything she does, everything she says, her energy, her vibe. And she's sober. She made this album. And I'm like, everything I aspire. It's beautiful.
I didn't really know her very much until she appeared on Drag Race this season. And then I heard the song that she did. And I don't know why I hadn't been exposed to it before, but loved it, love her. Like, she's gorgeous. She seems like a gorgeous person. Very proud of her win. All good energy coming from her. So, yeah, big fan as well now.
Yeah. So, icon. I know you didn't ask, but I just had to mention that she's an icon.
We'll throw her in too. Absolutely. We love strong, powerful female icons. So, definitely here for it.
Oh, and happy Black History Month, listeners, viewers, wherever you're listening and viewing from. Just appreciation.
We still appreciate, acknowledge, recognize these celebrations.
Historic months.
Yes. No matter what the government directives are for these things.
So
absolutely.
This is the perfect month, but not just this month, every other month, especially while our community is under attack, to support and stream your favorite Black queer artists or your favorite Black artists, period. Just stream them, support them any way you can. Go find local businesses. Maybe you're craving any sweets this month. Find a local business that is Black owned and Shop from them.
And I will say that Target had, under their DEI programs, had been working with a lot of Black-owned businesses and were featuring a lot of their products in their stores. And of course, now those creators and owners are concerned about what the DEI rollback at Target is going to do for their businesses. So now more than ever, it's important to support them directly and skip Target altogether.
Do you want to talk about some clouds and color?
Yeah.
Some news?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you see the Time magazine cover today?
Oh, yes. I did see Elon on the cover.
So Elon is sitting behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office. And you may or may not recall 8 years ago, around the same time frame, Steve Bannon was on the cover of Time also as, I don't know if they posed it as a question or if they made it as a statement that he was the second most powerful man in America. And they certainly are positioning Elon in the same light. And if you recall, Steve Bannon was fired shortly after his appearance on the Time magazine cover. So
well, hopefully history repeats itself at this point. Just with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Elon is very much in Trump's favor. But at some point, you have to think that Elon having the spotlight is going to bother Trump because he's such a megalomaniac.
I don't know. They're sucking each other's dicks off like hardcore. So,
but
maybe they're like, oh, look at my babe.
But when you have two ginormous egos like that, they may stroke each other off for a minute, but eventually they're going to want to show their dominance, and it's going to tick off the other person. So at some point, one or the other is going to get very upset. And
well, I can't wait.
I know.
I'm grabbing my popcorn.
Same. How about, you're talking about boycotts earlier. Coca-Cola. I don't know if you've seen, but on TikTok, there's a lot of Hispanic creators that are talking about their boycott of Coca-Cola, and they're coming up with some really fun and clever TikToks supporting Pepsi or anything else other than Coca-Cola right now. And I don't know if you heard, but it's not confirmed, but there was a rumor that that Coca-Cola laid off a bunch of its Hispanic employees, eliminating its DEI programs, and reported them to ICE. So that's a rumor that's been going around. It hasn't been necessarily confirmed, at least as of this recording, but the Hispanic community has been very supportive of Coca-Cola over the years.
Oh, 1,000%.
Like big time.
We love our Coke. Mm-hmm. Loved, because it's not happening anymore.
Yeah.
We're done. At that point, if anything's not promoting equality for everybody, we got to be done with it. How are we supposed to progress? Are we looking to progress, America? Or are we looking to be blaming each other and pointing the finger of dislike towards one another? Not for me. Unless I don't like you, then I'll point my finger at you. I'm joking.
But that's an individual basis. It's not based on you
it's
as a
not a
multi-billion
multi-billion company that has all the money to do whatever it wants. Of course. Yeah. We'll take our money back. Thank you.
Yeah. I saw another news article that popped up just today that the president was going to sign an executive order next week banning paper straws. And, undoing a lot of the stuff, of course, that the Biden administration put into place.
That's where I draw the line.
Try to help climate.
Paper straws? That's my line.
Yeah.
That's my line. Out of everything going on, that's my line.
That's what broke you?
That's what broke me.
Yeah.
Paper straws?
We're going to see you riding in the streets later as a result of paper straws.
Today it's going down.
So there's pushback just on protecting the climate in general, the idea that the climate needs protecting. But there is, of course, the conversation about shifting back to plastic straws and who that ultimately helps out. And oil and gas industry is involved in creating plastics. So they're in Trump's favor and have given him a lot of money and, of course, support a lot of his policies because they benefit oil and gas industries. So a lot of people are speculating that this is just performative to help out, again, to help out the wealthy, to help out the one percenters. And we're left with the question of what is this actually doing for us?
Yeah. Well, it must have done a ding if they're making a law to bring plastic straws back. So we just won't be using straws at all at that point.
I mean, I think straws are pretty wasteful anyway if you're going to throw something away. So I typically don't if we're here, and like you and I really don't drink much, if ever. And I'll just drink out of a cup as opposed to, adding something into it. So I think that's the way to go anyway.
I mean, y'all be licking and eating and kissing every other thing. You don't really need a straw. You can drink from the glass. Let's all start drinking from the glass from now on.
I like it.
And then we'll just avoid that problem, period.
Yeah. Talking about these executive orders banning paper straws and some more serious ones like banning trans individuals from sports, of course, all the DEI initiative stuff, and et cetera, et cetera. And we have to continue to ask ourselves, what are these initiatives doing for us, for the individuals? Because Trump ran on the promise of helping our pocketbooks, helping our wallets. And it doesn't feel like there's been anything at all that has been done or addressed that will help the individuals. There's a lot of things that are going on right now that seem to be helping the wealthy, to be helping the corporations, to be helping these billionaires, but there doesn't seem to be anything to support the people who actually voted for him and to put him in office. So there was a trend going on, a hashtag going on earlier this week, hashtag leaving MAGA. It seems like a lot of people are in that find out phase of the FAFO. So a lot of people who voted for him, who maybe aren't like super, super hardcore MAGA people, but did so because they needed some help for their bank accounts, are starting to realize that he's not doing anything for me. He's picking fights with minority groups and furthering his own agenda to help the wealthy. And so they've kind of had it, which is mind-boggling because we already knew this was going to happen. Mm-hmm. Like, this is not his first time in office. And we knew he was self-serving. Those of us who have been paying attention, even just the tiniest little bit. So we're left again with the question of, why did people vote out of selfish interests when the interests weren't even going to be served in the first place? We've talked about this a little bit in the past, that how right-leaning voters and left-leaning voters, what motivates them to actually vote. And it feels like left-leaning voters are voting for the greater good. We're voting for change, for our communities, for our country, for our world even. And it seems like right-leaning voters largely are voting out of their own self-interests. What is this individual going to do to help me as an individual versus what are they going to do that is going to have a global effect? Mm-hmm. This conversation has been going on online, particularly this week, as well as this hashtag leaving MAGA is erupting, because people are only leaving MAGA because it's affecting them individually. And if we could think on a more community-minded level, then maybe we wouldn't have even gotten to this point in the first place. So how do we, as individuals, grow our level of empathy and teach empathy to other people so that we can pass policies that's going to help everyone? So empathy
is the topic of today.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
How to obtain it, how to learn it, how to teach it, how to grow from it, how to embody it.
Right.
And
I don't know. Empathy is definitely something that can be taught and learned. It's not necessarily something that everyone is born with, but I do think some people are more inclined to it than others are.
For sure. I mean, I think we've just been so disconnected from our emotions, period. Like everyone may be born in the States. And I mean, I don't know about the whole world. I've only been in the States, but I do know that a lot of people here are taught to hide their emotions.
Sure.
Growing up. Don't talk about it.
Especially men.
Yeah, especially men. That is something we have to unlearn as a society.
Yeah.
To become empathetic.
Yeah, it boggles my mind when you see straight men, particularly straight men having conversation with their friends, and it's all surface level stuff. It's all, what did you think of the game? How's the weather? Where are you going this weekend? Who are you dating, etc. Versus like, oh, your mom just died. Like, how are you doing? And oh, you just went through a breakup. What do you need? You don't hear a lot of straight guys having those kind of conversations these days. And I don't want to lay it all on the straight guys with this empathy conversation. I think we as a country, and honestly, maybe as a world, have a deficit of empathy. And I don't know that it was always that way. I've always been a pretty empathetic person. So I see things through my lens, which maybe isn't necessarily reflective of how everyone sees things, obviously. But I do think that the age of social media obviously has given us an excuse to kind of separate, even though we feel like these things keep us connected, and they do to an extent. But I think that they oftentimes eliminate that emotional tie and that ability to really understand one another.
Yeah, I feel like they do keep us connected, but I feel like they make us numb in a way.
Oh,
like the only time it makes us feel is when it's like a dopamine rush from like videos or whatever, but that lasts like a couple seconds and then it's gone. But it really is just numbing us from real human empathy and we're actually feeling.
Right. We're exposed to so much information. We literally have a world's worth of information at our fingertips. So that we're just bombarded with so much stuff, and it's by choice. We're doing it to ourselves, but it's because of that dopamine rush. So we're getting off on it. That when we have the opportunity for real connections, we often fail because we're so accustomed to, oh, I got a notification. Let me check my phone. As you checked your watch for
I was checking the time, number one. I was just looking at the time. Not to rush you. Just making sure that I'm set for the rest of the day.
No, I'm teasing you. You're very good at putting your phone down and being present in the moment.
Oh my God. Some people will be like waiting for a text and I'm like, I don't even know where my phone is right now.
Well, you're definitely the exception to the rule, but it does, I think, help you become a better friend, a better empathetic person. And I think when we're talking about empathy, the first thing that we have to do
is be present.
But I mean that encompasses so many things. But I think it certainly encompasses active listening, and a lot of people have trouble active listening.
Oh, 1,000%.
It's when you're not listening to respond, but when you're listening to understand. And that can be really challenging for people, especially if you're on opposite sides of a debate, because you want to be right. And that's where the left and the right is right now, that both sides want to be correct on an issue. And we're not actually listening to what their problem is. They're not listening to what our concerns are. And so all they're doing is listening to respond versus listening to understand.
Yeah. I think the more you listen to people who maybe you're not familiar with, maybe who come from a different place or look completely different from you.
Yeah.
Maybe having a conversation with them at some point to just, not even like a deep conversation, but to see what they're like. How are they in this day and time? How are they in this climate of the world?
Right.
And if they say that they're fine, and you can tell when someone means it, but you can also tell when someone's not. Well, I don't know. Some people can't tell when somebody's going through it, and maybe that's the lack of empathy. Maybe that's
part of
where
it, for sure.
where they're just so blinded and closed off to that they don't even know where and who is feeling down.
But you make a really good point, and I think you covered like two really good tactics in what you just said. One, step outside of your bubble. Because it's really hard to be empathetic if everybody around you thinks and feels the same way. If everybody's going through the same thing, it's hard to connect with somebody else because you can't understand necessarily the trials and tribulations that they're going through. So one, step outside of your bubble, have those conversations with people who you may not think you have a lot in common with. And then ask questions, like actually have a conversation with them and get to know them. Ultimately, we all want to be heard, right? We all just want to feel like we are heard, that we're respected, that someone cares about us. And it is amazing how quickly you can diffuse a situation by just showing someone that you care. It can break down someone's anger so quickly when you're just like, how can I help you? Like, tell me what you're going through. It feels like that's a really easy thing to do, but it's not.
No, it's not. You're pretty good at that. You're pretty good at having conversation with new people all the time and actually finding a way to have deep conversations with them. I, on the other hand, normally would not approach anybody different to just have a conversation. Will I converse with anybody? For
Yeah.
sure, 1,000%. I have so many different people that I converse with,
Yeah.
and that are completely different from me.
Yeah.
I still put in the effort to get to know them on a deeper level, but you are more open to having that conversation with anybody. What are some good ways for you that you do that? Was that just practice? Was that just something that you're gifted with?
It's something that we have to remind ourselves all the time of, is that everyone is struggling with something. And as I mentioned earlier, we often feel like we don't have a lot in common with people, but we have way more in common with people, left and right leaning, different races, man, woman. We all have so much in common with each other. And if we just stop and have those conversations, we realize that all of our struggles, they're pretty similar. We all have these basic fundamental needs when we boil it down. It can feel like it can take a lot to uncover what someone else is going through. But ultimately, if they can let down their guard a little bit and we can go in with the understanding that they have a struggle, then it can be pretty easy to connect with somebody else. It's a two-way street, though.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, I am more on the reserved side when it comes to engaging with new people. But when people talk to me, I'm usually the one who goes a little bit deeper in the conversation and mindset first, because those are more important conversations to have. And I can't help but not get deep when I'm actually having a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
Like, especially we've been chatting for a long time. Sometimes I'm like, oh, did I go too far? But at the end of the day, we are just sharing each other's experience and perspectives.
Right. And I love how you're just leading me into all of my thoughts today too. I have always said that one of the best ways to teach empathy is to go to another country. And I get that we don't all have the ability to just pick up and take a vacation to Mexico or Canada or to Europe, but if we were all forced to do this, and I've said this many, many times, if at the age 18, we were all given our passports and a little bit of money to travel for a month to another country where we could experience a culture that is different from ours, but at the same time, we would be immersed in it and we would see what their struggles are like and how similar most of them are to us, that it would really change our perspective on the idea of nationalities and this ability to be empathetic with other people, because again, we have so much in common with everyone around the world, and that's where empathy is born of. So if you can, I mean, travel outside of the U.S., but if you can't, or if that's not as easy as it is for some people, read, watch TV shows that present different backgrounds, fiction, nonfiction. There's a whole plethora of entertainment out there that isn't just entertainment. It's also very educational because it presents a different background than what we're used to. And bookstores' shelves are filled with different perspectives. And you don't have to pick up something that is educational or teaching you about a different culture. Like, just pick up, if you're a white man, go pick up a book by a black female author, and your eyes will be open just to, one, that their perspective on their struggles, but also two, that their struggles are not necessarily unique to them.
For sure.
And that a lot of the stuff they go through, you're going through as well. But But black females do have, and I should definitely clarify this, they definitely have struggles that white men do not have.
Yeah, that's a given.
And so it's really important for us to understand, as many similarities as we have, there are people who struggle in different ways than us. And that is the first step into being able to have empathy, is to understand outside of your bubble, outside of your learned history, that other people experience things that you may not have gone through.
For sure. And if you're reading something like this and it's completely different from you and you just can't believe or comprehend what's going on in this book, novel, or conversation, and you're just like, this isn't real, it's time to start thinking of like, someone's experience is real. Someone's trauma and thoughts and experience from their perspective is real. It's true. Whether you've experienced it or not and you believe it is a different story, but that shared experience through that novel is real.
Yeah, and here's the thing, is that the Republican voting bloc, like they feel dismissed, and perhaps rightly so, by the Democratic Party, because they feel like their needs and concerns are not being addressed, have not been addressed. And so they feel like these minority groups often do. So if they could just take that mentality and understand that other people feel the same way, you're feeling neglected, but so does this group. They feel neglected as well. And it's not a versus battle, despite what our two-party system has done to us. Like, it's not one or the other. Like, we can all find a piece of the pie. And if we can find that empathy for one another, you're struggling, I'm struggling, maybe in different ways, maybe a lot of the same ways. Like, how can we come together and, fight the system, change the system? Because if we all were able to find empathy for one another, the way our government is run right now would totally change.
Yeah. I mean, that is what our government is missing. It's missing empathy.
Yeah.
And that goes for both parties.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether it was this president or the one before, they are all experiencing the same thing. And one is just a lot more gentle than the other, but they're both on the same page about everything. They're just explaining the story differently. Like, the Dems will make you think that, oh yeah, we are on your side and we're working for it and blah, blah, blah. But all the actions say otherwise. And the Republicans are basically just telling us what the Dems are doing as themselves and just doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
With no empathy. So one pretends to be empathetic and the other one doesn't care to be empathetic.
Another way I think that we can find empathy within ourselves is to volunteer. When you go and volunteer, you're oftentimes helping the less fortunate.
Yes.
And to be able to, and that helps you step outside of your bubble, because yes, we have our own problems, but we're insulated as to what's going on here. Like, I've never done this, but I have a couple of friends who are like really into it, like volunteering at homeless shelters. Like, that is something, the idea of being homeless, and I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate to it, but I cannot fathom like even being close to that.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the good fortune that I've had in my life. It's obviously not just a life-changing thing, but that has to change your mental and emotional state as well.
1,000%. I mean, I am blessed to never have been without a home, but not everyone is fortunate enough for that.
Right.
Although I was living in a very low-income place, it was still a blessing to have a roof, to have food at least once or twice a day. And for some people to not go through that, sometimes that puts them in an even worse spot. So now you're homeless, and maybe you're homeless, but then you lean into drugs because that's the only thing keeping you warm at night while it's really cold outside, or keeping your appetite away because you don't have food. So might as well just do something that's going to fix both of those things. And that's when those two come together. But when you are experiencing those things and you are at a homeless shelter, helping out wherever you can, you are seeing these people who might be suffering from both of those things. Yeah. And your first instinct might be to judge and be like, how did they get there? Blah, 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 whatever. But no, it's probably because someone took the rug out from under them, and it just kept going down with no support. And if you're not giving a helping hand to those who need help, then it's honestly just going to get worse, because everyone does need support to get out of places that they are in.
Right. I don't know what the stat is off the top of my head, but there's an alarming number of people in our country who are like one paycheck away from being homeless.
Yeah.
Like it should be something that's really close to home, and it's really, really easy for us to put homeless people in a box. And I think the Republican Party does this more than I'll say the Democratic Party does, but places them into, oh, they chose this, oh, they're drug addicts, oh, they've got mental health issues, and they're not, of course, they're not offering up any help to fix any of these problems, but they're very quick to just take the individual out of the situation and just put them into a box. And that's one of the great things about volunteering, is that you get to know people who are going through some of these things. And it's really hard to, once you put a face to a problem, to not have empathy for not only that individual person, but also to the group of people who are going through the thing. There are hardly any issues that separate us at all, other than you're going through some discrimination that I may not be going through. We put ourselves in our bubbles, and if we can just step out of them in all of these different ways, like empathy is just right around the corner. We've been talking about how we can be better at empathy, but ultimately, I mean, it would be lovely if the other side, the right-leaning side, if they could find more empathy. And that's what I feel like we're missing. And it's not an insult, because a lot of these people, I feel like, have voted for Trump, for other right-leaning politicians, because they cannot see past their own issues. They cannot see past the fact that they are living paycheck to paycheck. So how do we help other people become more empathetic? And honestly, the primary thing is by showing them empathy, and to be active listeners, as you said.
Yeah. And embrace your emotions. Don't shut them down. Like for one, to learn how to be empathetic, there has to be emotions involved. If you're shutting down these emotions, you're not going to go anywhere with empathy. So like, don't hide your anger. Don't hide your sadness. Don't do that. Express it to whatever the situation is. And hopefully you'll come to a place where you can gather around the movie screen and enjoy Nicole Kidman.
Right. We do have to, as we're listening, we also have to challenge judgmental thoughts. And we have to do it very carefully, obviously. But we should try to do it through offering up different perspectives. And you have to show empathy in order to connect with them, and then present them, hey, I get what you're saying. Here's a similar case, and it's happening to someone who doesn't look like you, or who doesn't act like you. And to find that kind of common ground through differences. Yeah. It's there. Like, the blueprint is there. It's just really challenging to break down those walls that have been built up, because we've had years and years of this.
Yeah. I mean, empathy takes a lot of critical thinking. Yeah. Like, it takes openness and critical thinking. And like, if you're not someone that's going to constantly think and like want other answers, you're supposed to question things. Like, maybe I am being indifferent with you and questioning things, trying to find that empathy for you. But me asking questions and still standing by what I stand, hopefully all my questions get answered, and there's a realization of, oh, I've learned something new. I'm more enlightened about the situation. And that way, now I have more empathy for you, because I feel and understand what you are saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Tying in our emotions to all of that, if we can help people become more emotionally aware, because a lot of people feel things and they don't necessarily understand why they're feeling it.
That anxiety, girl, that's you holding in feelings. That's you telling yourself, I should just stay put and not express what I'm doing. Or maybe you're like, oh, I have so much anxiety, I don't know what's going on. Well, what are you holding in?
Yeah. I consider myself to be very emotionally aware, very self-aware, but there are times that I will just get a gut reaction feeling to something, and I'll react immediately. And it will take me stepping back from it to recognize what caused that emotion. Why am I feeling this way? And there's nothing amazing about me. But if someone who
I'm kidding. There's a lot of amazing things about you, Danny.
Thank you. But if someone who does practice, emotional awareness still gets caught off guard, like we need to be there for other people who are just learning it or, who want to learn it. A lot of it is just being patient and holding hands and setting an example and challenging some thoughts on that. And just showing people that there are a lot of differences out there, but gosh, we have so many things in common. But the differences are still impacting a lot of people right now. So the empathy can go a long way in helping resolve that.
I mean, my circle better know what empathy is because I preach it every single fucking day to them. So start with your circle.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then go outside of your circle.
Right.
And sometimes going outside of your circle might not be as big of a move as you think it is. It could be just an interaction in a coffee shop where you're like, did they say this in a way that I should be offended? Or is it coming from a different place? And then strike conversation with them. Not in a like in a way where you're instigating, but in a way of like, oh, maybe it's just my mind taking me to this place. But I also didn't appreciate how you said that.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
You know?
And
then have that full conversation, not in a place of like discomfort, but like it is time that we just start going out of our comfort zone to understand each other and what triggers us and what we might not see in the normal day to day.
Yeah, and it's easy. It feels easy to do that with your group of friends, and maybe a random stranger who's going through something. Maybe that might be hard for some of us. But there are other groups of people who fall somewhere in between. Coworkers, even family isn't necessarily that close knit group. But we can practice empathy with those people, and it's amazing what an effect that will have on your coworkers with your conservative right-leaning parents when you just show a little bit of empathy. People just want to be heard at the end of the day. They just want to be understood and feel acknowledged. And if we can do that for somebody, it's so much easier to win them over and to help them do the same thing for somebody else.
Well, I have empathy for everyone else besides you, starting today.
I already feel that.
Already? I said starting today.
It's an immediate. I just felt it right out of the gate because I'm empathetic. So
For sure. It's all a feeling.
yeah.
But this was good. Another episode done in 2025. What is this, episode 4 or 5?
6.
Episode 6.
Yeah.
And we're barely in February.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're rocking and rolling.
It's going to be a long year. You're really milking me out of this one, huh?
Yep. Yeah, it's challenging all of us, but as always, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning out. And please like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Love y'all. Bye.